It's September 28th, 2020. This is Roqe. It takes a diversity of voices to build an accurate oral history and reservatory of the Iranian diaspora in the 21st century. So in that process, we may sometimes defer naturally to the usual folks in academia or the historians or the activists or the celebrities that we've known to set the tone and tell our stories. But let's widen the lens, shall we? Today, a guy firmly ensconced in Generation Z, or Gen Z as we might say north of the border, who is reaching a massive audience around the world with a mission to, as he puts it, show how badass Persian culture is. The innovative musician and pioneer of Persian trap music, Danny Asadi, joins us today. I'm Jian Ghomeshi. This is Roqe. Hi there, welcome to episode number 48 of Roqe. امیدوار هستم که میزون باشین. Hi Shaya.
Hello Jian. How are you? I'm great.
You're great.
Yes.
I'm very good.
Yeah.
You know why? Are you great because of the guests we've got coming up? Partly.
I know why I'm great.
Why?
I
don't know why you're great. No. I'm guessing. Why are you great?
Yes, actually, I had a very small gathering, and it was for the first time in Corona time that I could perform.
Oh, on the weekend.
On
yes,
the
you
weekend,
did.
yes.
And that felt good.
Yes.
Nice. I'm glad that it was good for you.
Yes, and the thing is that we have to get used to these Corona rules and.
Yeah. I saw you on one of the nights performing, and you were behind a big shield.
Yes.
It's a plastic shield, like a boy in a bubble, you know. Yeah, but it was great. It was great to see you performing, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and shout out to the place. There's a place called Beer Bistro in Toronto that hosted you performing there, and it was great.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say you're great because we've got this guest on today who I think is a future superstar if he stays focused. I mean, I'll talk to him about this. I don't know if he'll welcome my advice, but I think if Danny stays focused, Danny Asadi, our guest today, he's going to be, he could be like Drake. I mean, he can be because what he is doing is not just innovative; it's very accessible. It's very catchy. He's already amassed a huge audience. He's 23, 24 years old. Don't you think?
Yes. He has a good follower and he has a lot of followers. But as you said, he has to be focused.
He has to stay focused.
Yeah, because actually,
no.
Especially for this genre of music, it's very easy to lose your focus. So
we're gonna be like his older brothers today. Listen, this is supposed to be an interview, but actually it's an intervention. Stay focused. No, he is. I'm thrilled to have him on the show. And if anybody's listening who doesn't know Danny Asadi yet, I recommend, hopefully the interview will go well, but stick around, listen, and jump on the bandwagon now, because I think there's great things in store. He's just a really talented guy.
Ooh, yes.
And we've heard some of the work he's done with Erfan and Hamed Nikpay, but he's just innovative, and he's a good dude, and it'll be an interesting conversation, I hope. Speaking of interesting conversations, if you have not had the chance to listen to our last episode of Roqe, number 47 with Shah Rukh, Mushkil Ghalam, we're getting so much lovely feeling about that. You know, I
Yeah.
wasn't sure how people feel about Shahrukh. Is such an interesting character, you know, and but you know, people just love the guy.
I think it's mainly because of his soul, you know.
Yeah.
It touches people.
Yeah, he's all soul. Also, maybe you know, go to that episode for the interview with Shahrukh Mushkin Kalam. Stay for the story about my dog Oogie and the Rasu, the Sag Babu,
Yeah.
the Rasu, the skunk.
Yeah.
I'm so happy that afterwards I was like, man, should I have told that whole story? But a lot of people have been commenting on asking how Oogie is, and you know, how to apply the tomato juice onto a dog if it meets a Rasu. Anyway, listen to that on whatever platform you want to catch us on. I should remind, I periodically do this. I'll remind you guys out there again, because people write in or they contact and say, have you guys thought about putting the show on Instagram? And we're like, yes, we are on Instagram. So here, whatever platform people listen to it on or experience Roqe on, they think that that's the only platform we're on. That's what I'm learning. So if you watch us on YouTube, and you can sort of watch, there's graphics and some stuff on YouTube like that, be mindful that it's available on SoundCloud. And if you listen to us on SoundCloud, you can find us on Telegram. And if you're on Telegram and you prefer Instagram, we're there. And Spotify and iTunes.
Yeah. Yes.
Spotify audience is growing fast. I think Spotify. Oh, here's an interesting stat for you. I don't know if you're into the stats, but so our audience is predominantly still North America, Canada, and the United States. The number 3 country is Iran. So a lot of people are listening to us in the thousands. And I guess they're listening mostly on Instagram and SoundCloud, because that's where you can hi to the folks in shout out to the Iranians in Iran listening to us. Thank you for listening to us on SoundCloud and Instagram, and maybe Spotify. No, not Spotify. iTunes they can get, because I see the countries. You know what the number 4 country is? Take a guess. So Canada, US, Iran, Germany.
Oh,
Germany's number 4. A few thousand people have streamed our show in Germany. And then number 5 is also interesting, because I would have thought the UK or somewhere, you know, but it's actually, you want to take a guess?
I would say maybe Israel. No,
not
Turkey.
Israel. Not Turkey. No. Any more guesses?
Australia.
Yes, Australia. English-speaking country, So Australian, and that actually, if you think about it, makes sense, because there are big pockets of the diaspora in Germany, a lot of Persians in Germany, a lot in Australia, and of course Iran. There's apparently some Iranians in Iran, and then Sweden, and that makes sense as well, because we've had a few Swedish guests, but again, predominantly Canada and the U.S. But I love seeing those folks, and so depending on where you are, I guess you listen to it, or you experience Roqe in a different way.
Yes, you wear Arsenal T-shirt.
Yeah, I always wear it on game days. I have a few Arsenal jerseys, by the way, just so that you don't think I'm wearing the same shirt every time. Next Monday, Shia, is that your name? Yeah.
Yes.
Shia, because sometimes people call you Cheyenne, which is a combination of Jian and Shia. Next Monday is episode number 50 of Roqe, a little bit of a milestone for us. And because of that, we have a very special guest coming on next episode, or not the next episode, but next Monday on the 50th episode. Definitely one of the most well-known and I'd say beloved folks in the diaspora. I can't quiz you as to who it is, because I know you know who it is, but I'm excited to have this human. It is a human. This human. By the way, that's how much I'm going to narrow it down. By the way,
I think you told me, but I don't know really. Actually,
you really don't know?
No. So you're
let me explain to people. There's a team of people, amazing little team of folks who work on Roqe, and we're all in the and then Shaya, you basically are in a little bunker with curtains around you in a darkened room where you sit and do the editing and do some of the creative sounds for the show and your music and pick the music and all that. So you oftentimes you don't actually know what's going on, even though you're here every day.
Yes. So
that's why we love you.
I would love to know who's the Monday's guest.
You know who Monday's guest is. You really can't remember? So it's maybe one of the biggest guests we've had on the show for our 50th episode. Anyway, we're excited to have that person, that human coming up. It's not a Rasu. It's a human. Let's get to our guest, which we were excited about today. Okay, Shai, you line up the music and everything because I'm about to do the introduction. You ready?
Yes.
Okay. Let me say this. If I told you there was a young artist bringing authentic traditional Persian instruments and classical sounds into a 21st century vibe with electronic instruments and beats, a real Iruni kind of exotic fusion, you may not necessarily expect him to be a guy who was born in Dallas, Texas, and grew up in a super white community in Columbus, Ohio. But indeed, the future of at least one strand of Iranian music is in the hands of the boy wonder Dani Asadi, a talented Iranian-American musician who grew up in the States with Persian parents. Dani has become massively successful online and in various platforms, performing something he calls Persian trap music, a blend of electronic beats and sonic splendor with traditional Persian instruments, all of which he plays live, and then add in some samples and loops at the same time. And, well, take a listen to this.
Listen.
Little taste of the sound of Dani Asadi, the Iranian-American artist, composer, producer, performer, there on Persian sitar and electronic beats, all being played live. So Dani learned how to perform his music live from scratch off The Machine. This is a 16-channel beat sample pad electronic box that is his little sound assistant, as opposed to simply pressing play on a traditional DJ setup and prefabricated beats. In the course of doing that, Dani has fast become huge online and one of the most coveted young musicians in electronic music, with hundreds of thousands of followers across his platforms. And right now, Dani Asadi joins me from Los Angeles, California. Hello, sir.
How you doing? What an amazing introduction.
I really, really love what you do. I'm so enamored of what you've kind of discovered, and I'm so grateful to have you on the program. Thanks for doing this.
Well, that means a lot coming from you, especially, being a part of this interview. I'm really happy to be talking to you.
Listen, I was thinking of a way to describe what you do. I mean, to me, you're half drummer, half electronic music producer, half traditional instrument guru. You've created the moniker Persian trap music. How do you explain it to people?
That was my goal with how I wanted to name it, is I just wanted it to be like exactly what it sounds like. It's just Persian influence on a trap sound at its core. But I think some of the elements that you don't see in the name is that, like, it does have a cinematic kind of style involved. It has a little bit of it just puts you in a world, a lot of sound design, So at its core, yeah, it's Persian trap music, but it's constantly just turning into something bigger and better. Persian melodies is something that I've always been fascinated by.
Listen.
the musical culture and the melodies themselves especially is something I've been always day after day studying and practicing to get better and better at, not only creating but performing, not only composing but having the skill set to do it myself. And so that's the Persian aspect of it. And I guess the trap aspect is, like I said, eclectic, like somewhat of a cinematic influence, definitely in the electronic trap category rather the hip hop trap.
There's a lot of different kinds of people listening from a lot of different places in the world. So for those who don't know what trap music is, which may be many of us, can you deconstruct it for us? What exactly is trap?
It's just like an aspect of hip hop music that's heavily influenced, or it kind of started in Atlanta, and or at least became big there. And it's like a certain style that really involves the 808, which is a certain type of like bass sound that has a decay. It's that boom you hear in hip hop music,
right?
And a lot of other 808 sounds, because basically like the company that created the 808 machine that like creates the 808, it's called TR 808, and like that was like that machine was like the start of that trap sound, that Atlanta trap sound.
Some of us actually played the original TR 808 back in the 80s, but
exactly, yeah.
yeah.
So like that turned into so many different styles of trap, and it eventually kind of tapped into the electronic world, where it's like now there's like two types of trap that people know of. It's like the EDM trap, the electronic trap, right? Or just a traditional like hip hop trap, if you know what I'm talking about.
So when you talk about Persian trap, so taking that that division of electronic music and hip hop, and then adding the Persian influence, was that something that came as a eureka moment for you, or do you feel like you've been developing this over time?
Kind of both. Like it was definitely eureka when I first heard about electronic trap. When I was like 15, 16 years old, I was just obsessed. Like the sound that I was giving out, the vibe, the energy was so wild to me. And I always thought it would be cool if I could somehow fuse Persian melodies with it and make it this like super badass, dark, majestic sound. My biggest influences were this trap producer who was huge back then named Hoochie, and a few other like trap guys, like the OGs like Flostradamus, Arl Grime, Bauer. These are all like famous electronic trap people that really brought the sound in. Like I don't know if you remember like the Harlem Shake back then.
Yes,
the song The Harlem Shake, like that was like, that's what it really established. Like everyone knew what electronic trap was.
Yeah.
And at that time, like I was really just fascinated by it and really wanted to fuse the two together. And once I did, at a very basic element, I did what I did was like, my parents had a box of cassettes of like old Persian singers, and so I went to Best Buy and I bought like a cassette player, and I recorded some things that I wanted to sample. So I sampled this guy named Sattar. He had a song called Panda Hafez from
the pretty well known guy.
80s.
Yeah.
And I just put a typical like trap rhythm under it and made a song out of it, like made this like basic electronic trap thing. That was like the eureka moment for me. Like it was like 2013, I would say. Yeah, 2012, 2013. And from then on, like I wanted to stick to the sound. And for a while I was producing, I was since I was like in middle school, I've always been trying to be a producer. So I would mess around with like trying to make dance music, try to make hip hop, all sorts of things.
I just got to put this into context for people. When you talk about 2013, way back then, the Harlem Shake, you started at this pretty young. So even though that wasn't that long ago, you were like 10 or something, right? Or 12. You're talking about.
Yeah. When I first got like the software and was like learning about it was like when I was 13.
Right.
I'd say when I really started producing was when I was 14. And when I started doing trap, when I started doing Persian trap, that I decided to call it Persian trap, and this is what I want to do. Like the day I decided to do that, I was like 16, I'd say.
Let me start with you. You talk about practicing, and to watch you, because I think a lot of people know you through your YouTube videos, through Instagram, through watching what you do, which is quite fun. I mean, it almost seems like you go into this zone when you're performing. Your head is swinging, you've got this long hair and it's flowing all over the place. Your eyes can be closed sometimes. But what you are doing is actually really technically profound. Like just how quickly your fingers move would astound most drummers or piano players. How did you teach yourself to do that?
I was always a musician. Like I played guitar, played piano, a few other instruments. Later in middle school, my dad came home from Iran with a Persian sitar. I was loving it. Like I was messing around with it all the time. So like I always was a musician. When I tapped into the electronic world, the whole world of producing all these bangers and stuff, these producers were DJs, so they just DJ live, and I was so bored by that. Like I wanted my instruments. I wanted them on stage.
Right. To a certain extent, they're just pressing buttons, and right.
Yeah, it's very easy to get away with. Just that's the thing about DJing. It unfortunately has a bad rep because it's so easy to get away with sounding really good without doing anything on stage. It's not as easy to figure out if one DJ is better than the other, unless if you're like kind of into DJing. Whereas like a musician, like if you suck at piano, you'll hear a shitty piano player, you know?
Right.
If you suck at, whatever instrument.
But the way your fingers,
that,
the way your fingers move on the machine,
right.
It's almost like the way I would describe. I would describe it almost like a doumbek player. Like they're quickly moving, And where did you learn to even do that?
Yeah, so like I always wanted to figure out, okay, like how can I play this stuff like completely live? Like that would just be really cool. So 15, like my dad for my birthday spoiled me with a machine. He had like no idea really like what the purpose of it was, but he knew I really wanted it and he got it for me, because I hope he likes me. And so I just started practicing on it and just like I would see videos online of like some people just like kill it, and I was so like cocky back then. I was like, oh, I could do better than that.
And just for people who are listening who haven't seen you perform or are not watching this on YouTube or something, it's basically a box that has little square pads on it, like a drum pad almost, and you sit in front of this box and you press the pads, which trigger different sounds. That's what you're talking about, triggering, and your fingers move really quickly, and you're live. It's almost the way you would play a drum kit, but you're playing these pads on a box.
Correct. Like for someone who doesn't know much about like production or just the type of music that I play, just imagine like a hip hop kit on 16 pads, and each pad, which is like the size of like, I don't know, like 1 square inch, triggers a sound from the kit. So like a kick, a snare, a hi-hat, whatever.
But you're a machine pad virtuoso, like to get as good as a great piano player, long it has to sit in front of the piano for years, 10 hours a day or whatever, and he becomes a piano virtuoso. Did you do that with the machine? Did you just spend hours and hours and hours? I've got to imagine, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. I was just obsessed. I mean, that's how I had fun. Like I'd come home from school and I'd keep playing on this machine. I was so obsessed. I was so interested. I started like loading up these like factory kits, like these pre-made kits that the company provides you when you get the machine. And I quickly started to realize like, okay, if I can create my own sounds laying down on this thing and know how to play it live, it'd be like I'd be the first to do it, and it'd be mind blowing, and and more importantly, I'd love to do it. So like I would listen to songs like online, and like listen to the rhythms of like their trap beats, right? And I would try to emulate it like live on the machine. So I would load up the sounds or the closest sounds that I could find, and like try to play it live, and like that's how I would practice.
So this is a perfect segue, because I was going to say, it seems like the ultimate combination of electronic and live performance blended together. There's an Instagram post of yours where you're having this drum off with a live drummer, and the interesting part is that while he's playing an old school acoustic drum kit and you're on the machine, what you're doing is seemingly no less physical, very much like what a drummer would need to do. We're going to play it. Take a listen to this. I love that as a drummer, because first of all, your buddy's a great drummer. The guy who's playing the so for people listening, the first thing you were hearing there was of course the acoustic drum kit, the live drummer, and then you're hearing Danny play live on his machine. And I love that I can almost hear you or feel you thinking of the sound choices for the next time you're going to come at him with the. So tell me about this blending live of electronic performance in just what we heard there.
Yeah, I mean that's my friend Noah since like I was in like elementary school. Like we've known each other for such a long time, and we kind of just like reunited recently. He's a great drummer. He drums for a lot of famous like rappers and stuff, and we always had this idea of doing like this battle thing. So we did that. I had a bunch of pre-made kits ready, and we just freestyled it, and that's what turned out.
It's really fun to watch and listen to. The music you make, so it's this blend of East and West, and you've told me before that audiences in the West think of you as this exotic Eastern guy, and audiences in the East, like in Iran, will think of you as this Western EDM guy, which must get confusing. Where do you feel the truth lies?
Yeah, like everyone in America thinks I'm like from Iran. They're like, yo, so when'd you move from Iran? I'm like, bro, I was born in Dallas. I grew up in Columbus. And a lot of people from Iran are like, when are you going to learn Farsi? Like, you know, stuff like that. So like, I'm in this weird, awkward middle where I don't feel like I belong to really anyone but kids just like me who are born in the States, but they like have strong Persian roots.
Yes.
You know, I get along with kids like that the most. And honestly, like low-key, I think that's like my number one fan base. Kids just like me who they love that Persian sound, and they're just American, you know, they love hip hop, they love electronic music, they love all the artists that I listen to, they love festivals, you know, going to venues. But thank God I have a very strong following from Iran.
PTM.
I was always kind of afraid, because you know how like music business works, you know, there's so many ways you can just like market yourself. Like what kind of you always have to ask yourself, like what kind of audience are you trying to market to? And like I could very well make decisions with like promoting my music in a sense where it would most likely attract a Persian audience from Iran, and I was always hesitant on doing it. I always avoided that. I always wanted to market my music and promote my music in a way where Americans or anyone else in the world, anywhere else in the world, would like it. And it's not because I hate Iran or hate Iranians. It's just because my goal since I was in high school was to show the Western world, the Americans, how badass Persian culture is through the sound of music. That's what I always wanted to make us Persians look good in America through music. I wanted to show how amazing this music, these melodies are.
How do the kids in Iran know that you're Iranian? I mean, just to look at your name is Danny, and you're a super good looking. You could be like maybe a Spanish guy, if not just like a California kid, and you don't necessarily speak Farsi in a lot of your videos and stuff. So how do they know you're Iranian?
I think they really found out that I was Persian when I made some songs with Erfan and Hamenikpe, and I started speaking a little more Farsi because, I started feeling bad that like I wasn't speaking any Farsi because like all these kids were like really just freaking into my music. I mean, I feel like I have like a cult following in Iran.
I'm sure you do.
And like I love it, like not that I'm for cults, but like not that I have anything against it going the other way around where I'm making Persian music sound good for my Persian following. Like I want that, I want that just as much. But I guess what I'm trying to say is like, I'm in this awkward middle, and I like to, me and all my fans in Iran and all the musicians in Iran, for once in a long time, look just like badass in America.
Hey, a lot of us have been in that awkward middle for our whole lives, and that's kind of what this show is about. So I appreciate you saying that. So take me back. Yeah. You're a guy who's born in Texas. You moved to Columbus, Ohio, with your family as a kid. What was it like growing up in Columbus with Iranian parents?
Oh, it's like so awesome because like we got our own little world, and then like when I go to school, it's like the food I'm bringing, the attitude I have, the decisions I make, the things I like to do, the parties that my family throws is like stuff that like, kids in my school like totally don't know about. And this is the thing, like I always feel kind of awkward doing interviews because I don't have like a sob story. Like
hey, that's okay if you don't. That's like, great.
Yeah, like I'm just like, I grew up in a really safe, like medium high class.
You're a privileged,
town.
Good-looking rich kid, is what you're saying?
Exactly.
Damn.
That's exactly what I am.
This is even more reasons to hate you. I mean, you got it all.
Yeah, I don't have like a struggling story, but I mean, I always had the attitude where I want to take advantage of what I got, and like my parents didn't come from like, they didn't really come from wealthy parents or anything from a wealthy family. They definitely raised me well, looking back, like making sure I'm not like this, like compared to my friends that grew up with me in that same town, like that I'm some like, rich ass spoiled kid who doesn't know, who's so out of touch with like the rest of the world and stuff. Right. I went to Iran for like 3 months, and when I was like 15, it was a huge like wake up for me to like be grateful for the city that I live in America.
So wait a second, and again, by all means don't manufacture any horrible stories if you don't have any. This is good. This is good news that you've had such a happy experience. But so when you're a kid in the early 2000s in Columbus, Ohio, that you didn't feel any backlash to being Middle Eastern after 9/11 or anything like that. You got your family.
Okay, so like all was relying on how well the kids that I was around were educated. For a little bit, I was in a town called Powell, which was right next to Dublin.
In Ohio.
And Powell, their education system wasn't as great. Like, like their history classes and their, like just educating the kids. And the Powell kids were like more like redneck and like kind of racist towards like blacks, like Hispanics, whites, anyone. I mean, all the white kids there were like kind of racist, like low key. So like when I was in that school, there was a crap ton of bullying. Like I was bullied like every day. And it's funny.
You were bullied every day?
Like for a little bit, like in like late middle school and early high school. Like,
and that doesn't count as a sob story?
No, that's not a sob story.
Well, I mean, that's I don't want to be too precious about it, but that's
Yeah.
horrible that you were bullied every day.
No, it wasn't that bad.
Okay.
They weren't good at bullying.
You've got a good attitude, man. I like this. They
No,
didn't
it's
bully
fun.
you
It's
well
like-
enough for you to be upset
Okay,
about it.
like in late middle school, I came back from like a spring break trip with my family, right? So like suburban family goes down to Florida. We go to the beach, whatever. We come back and I'm like super tan, like brown, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And everyone thought I was Mexican. So everyone was being racist towards me, like go back to the border, like all this stuff. They thought I was Mexican. And I never told them that I was Iranian because I thought it was just really funny that they thought I was Mexican and they were like being racist to someone who wasn't even Mexican. And then high school came and like they found out that I was like Middle Eastern.
Right.
And I remember sitting
The
at
only
this, like,
thing
lunch
worse than
table.
being Mexican, do a racist. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And this, I just remember this kid like every day, 3 kids every day, especially one of them, just like straight up believed like I was a bad person. You know what I'm saying? It was so violent, like that school. And then from there, I went to like the next year, like sophomore year, I moved back to Dublin. And it was like complete 180 because
Wait a
everyone
second.
was
So
nice to me.
that experience in Powell, that didn't. How did you deal with that? You're a kid. You're being told these things.
Just got in fights, got really mad. I cry at some points, and then my dad.
But you don't feel like
whatever.
you don't feel like the scars of that remain at all.
Oh, absolutely not. Because another thing was like Noah, like the guy who was drumming with me.
Mm-hmm.
He has a twin brother who plays guitar, and him, me, and his twin brother were like the only kids in that town that started a band when we were in 5th grade,
Right.
and we were still in that band in high school. And they were bullied throughout middle school. I was kind of bullied late middle school. I was bullied in high school. Like we had each other, and we were so like, our heads were like huge. Like we were just like so full of ourselves. We were like, we didn't care because we were like, we're gonna be rock stars anyway. It doesn't matter what these guys say. And we were just like, we didn't care. We had each other. That's something that I was really grateful for. Noah and I were definitely reminiscing about that.
Were your parents? I hope Noah's listening. He's saying a lot of nice things about him. Were your parents very? Are they proud Iranians? Are they very assimilated Americans? How would you know that they're Iranian if you met them? I mean, how do they self-identify?
My dad really has like white skin because he was born in Gorgan, like he was raised in Gorgan, which is like North Iran, and my mom was from Isfahan / Tehran mainly, and they're not, especially my dad, like you wouldn't think he's like really Middle Eastern, like you can barely hear an accent, and compared to other Iranian parents, not that it's better or worse, but they're definitely I feel like more American.
I think that's part of the what may have made things a little easier for you. I mean, my beautiful dad, who was the best, but he had a very heavy accent, and I had an older dad too, so I remember 10 years old, I'm playing hockey, and all the other kids have like dads who are like 30 and white, and and my dad doesn't really even know how hockey's played, and he's got this heavy accent, and all of that made things difficult, because then you feel both bad for your dad and bad for yourself as a kid. It's like, well, why doesn't my dad speak this way? So you might have had a slightly easier experience because of that, but I also think that you've got a really great attitude. I mean, I'm going to get to your confidence, because this speaks to this underlying confidence that you have, that knowing you a little bit, you've told me before about your ambitions, and but just sticking with the story, you've mentioned a couple of times going to Iran and how that had a profound effect upon you. I guess around 2010 or something is one of your first trips to Iran. So you're this all-American kid who goes to Iran with your family. Tell me about how you first felt when you arrived in Iran.
So I've been in Iran a few times in my life. I think 2 times when I was really young, like 4 and probably like 2 or something, which obviously I don't remember. And then like 2 more times, like almost back to back, when I was 14. I already had a sitar. My dad came back from Iran when I was like 13 with a sitar. So when I was 14, went back to Iran with him. I went over like a 3-week winter break. And he took me to some music spots. There was this Meidun called Baharistan, this block that's just filled with music equipment. So it was like this giant outdoor shopping Persian guitar center, almost. I was just like in love. I kept seeing these music technology stores, and I kept seeing these Persian stores. I kept seeing these music technology stores, kept seeing these Persian stores. I was just obsessed with having both. Like, I wanted the cool electronic music gear. I wanted the very beautiful Persian instruments that I could never find in America. So like, I would drag my dad to this place. Like every day, I'd tell my dad, we gotta go here, we gotta go here. I always had a reason that I needed to go there, but I really just wanted to go there to go mess around with the instruments.
This is in Tehran?
In Tehran, yeah. It's in Tehran. Meidun Baharistan. There was a store back then, and I'm not like, I don't regret saying this. So back then, like, illegally downloading software wasn't a thing yet. Like, I had no idea how to do it. No one really knew how to do it. Torrenting, the idea of torrenting was like brand new, where you like legally download cracked software. Uh-huh. And so, but I went to the store.
I think I see where this is going.
Yeah. So he had all this cracked software, and I bought a 1 terabyte hard drive. I took it to him, and he just filled it with all the software I wanted. I was at like a candy shop, and I was in this like black market candy shop almost.
Right. So wait a second. So wait a second. Pretty privileged American kid goes to Iran to get all this software. Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's a great story.
Yeah. Because I mean, think about it. Like, my dad is not gonna pay like $5,000 for his 14-year-old son to get music software, not knowing if he's going to stick to it.
So the roots of your electronic music, not just your, you might say, not just your classical, traditional Persian instruments, but the electronic music you can trace back to Iran as well. Then in this case,
I guess so. I mean, the software, yeah.
You said that you got a sitar from your dad when you took lessons in Ohio. You took sitar lessons.
So like, my dad, I don't know how he found out, but he comes home with this like photocopied flyer saying that like this guy teaches sitar in a town right next to Dublin called Upper Arlington.
Wow.
In the basement of a library for free every other Sunday.
Sitar too, not the sitar, not the Indian sitar, but like Persian sitar.
Like Persian sitar.
Wow.
And I show up, and there's all these like adults, just like they all have like broken sitars, and they all grew their like index finger nail out, because you're supposed to grow like one long fingernail. So everyone's showing up with this like with their one long fingernail. It's like these broken sitars, learning like basic like Persian, almost like eeny meeny miny mo type music. And I'm like picking it up quickly, and I'm like, all right, let's learn the next thing. And I'm like constantly going to these lessons and learning. And I grew to have like a really good relationship with that teacher. yeah, I mean, he doesn't really do it anymore, but it was so wild that like someone who plays sitar like lived right next to me. I was so lucky to have that.
I want to play a little bit of
Yeah.
you playing. It's either sitar or tar. I can't remember what I've lined up here.
Okay.
This is Danny Asadi. Take a listen to this. Taste of Danny Asadi there. I really like that. If I were to guess, I'd say that was tar and sitar. Is that what are you playing there?
Yes. So the clip that you just heard is tar. It's bigger, looks cooler, has more of a banjo sound. The sitar is more minimal, smaller. It has like a more high frequency, like
right.
Folk almost kind of sound, and it looks like a spoon. The whole song I tried to play sitar and tar, and when I was in Iran I learned a lot about Persian classical music and heard people play these instruments. I went to a few concerts, so like I would take that in. I would force myself to have the confidence and basically tell myself like there's no room to second guess that I can't incorporate this type of music.
Well, that's what I want to ask you about. Because you don't just use the instruments, the sitar and tar, the Persian instruments, but sometimes you're adopting or appropriating the melodies. You sometimes use loops of or samples of classic Persian melodies and moments. Have you ever had any trepidation about this kind of mixture, wondering if this would somehow be heretical or not accepted, that for you to mix that kind of traditional melody and instrument with electronic beats, with electronic sounds?
I just said, like, it's happening.
Right. I assumed that was going to be your answer.
Yeah.
What phases you? You don't seem like anything phases you. I mean, think about it. Like, the most successful people out there are not the smartest. They're the most confident. Like, you look at, like, confidence is what makes you successful. It's not intelligence. And have you always had this confidence? Since you were a little boy?
I think when I was in Iran, I mean, everyone has their ups and downs.
Right.
But I think musically, I just never gave up. And the feeling of, like, true confidence isn't talking about, oh, I'm the shit or whatever, like how I'm talking to you right now. True
no,
confidence.
You're not. I'm asking you serious questions about confidence. You're not actually coming off as I'm the shit. You're just coming off as a guy who knows what you want and knows what you want to do.
True confidence is like the act of never giving up and just never giving up. Like you keep pushing and you keep pushing. Like you just don't stop. Like you refuse to fail.
Listen.
So I refuse to fail at learning composition as well as John Williams, for example, or to learn an instrument that I can't learn in the States, like tar, or to produce to be a music producer in a city where there's no music producers at the time that I could learn from, or at the time when there was no like YouTube video where you could learn even the basics of production.
See, it's not just confidence. This is ambition. You're still in your early
Right.
20s, but you're a really ambitious guy. You've created, I mean, you basically created a genre, first of all. You're building a major global platform for yourself. And if anybody's listening kind of going, oh yeah, this is cute what this guy does, I'm telling you, this guy, I mean, you're going to be a mogul because you're doing something really interesting. It is connecting with people, but mostly because you are hardworking and you're extremely ambitious. Where does all this ambition come from?
Dude, I don't know, because I don't have a sob story.
Right, so it's not revenge.
No.
It's not.
I think
it's not vengeance for the kids who bullied you badly in Powell.
I was super lonely throughout high school. And you know how people say like high school like forms you, like you really like find your identity and like who you are mentally and emotionally and stuff through high school. So think about this, like I went to Iran for 3 weeks over the winter, come back with a sitar and a terabyte worth of software. I go back that summer after for 3 months, okay? And for 3 months I stayed to Iran.
Wow.
So my summers as a kid who just wants to have fun with all his white friends and his bubble community is gone. Like I'm in Iran, no friends, no one, just around a bunch of people that I have like I just had never been around before. Speaking a language that like I'm not too comfortable speaking, so I'm like totally alone, and that's how I feel. And then like kind of like still going through puberty, and then like staying at my grandma's house, who's just feeding me nonstop. I mean, I just come back looking like I just like stepped foot in America for the first time, like 40 pounds overweight. And I came back to a new high school. So like my first day of school when I came back wasn't the same high school. It was a new high school. And everyone in that high school thought I was a freshman, and all the freshmen in the high school thought I was a senior. And it was hard, man. Like I had no friends for that, almost like that entire year. I was like completely alone. Like all I had was music. All my Powell friends, well, you know, I wasn't talking to them for a while just because naturally, like,
and you're good looking. You're a musician. That didn't help. You weren't popular. No, I mean really.
I was not good looking back then. I had a bowl cut, a unibrow. I was like a round faced, round bodied, like cute little button, basically chubby, like, you know, truffle shuffle kid, right?
Okay. I like this. Now we're getting the story. Now we're hearing the real Danny Asadi.
So my insecurity was at the all-time low. And at that time, not to bash on my parents, because all parents make mistakes, and this is like a brush off the shoulder compared to what the amount of how much they helped me in my life, okay, musically, let alone everything else. My parents weren't too supportive of me doing music full time. They loved that I did music as like, okay, instead of me playing video games all day or, you know, doing nothing essentially. They loved how like all I would do was study for school and do music. So like I would study for all these like honors classes, like college level classes that I signed up for, trying to get those A's and make my parents proud. And they would go around telling people like I'm an engineer. They wouldn't say like I'm a musician, like I'm going to be a rock star one day or whatever. Like they just say like I'm an engineer, like I'm going to be a great muhandis, great engineer.
Yeah.
And a lot of my friends.
How'd that make you feel when they would say that to people?
I mean, it's just like, okay, I didn't have friends. My parents weren't support. Like all I had was my music, right? So like,
dude, this is you know what this is?
That was my revenge.
This is a sob story.
It's such a privileged sob story.
You're an overweight kid with a unibrow whose parents are afraid to say, who don't want to say that you're a musician. I mean, you don't have any friends. You're alone. You except for your grandmother in Iran. I mean, come on. You could. I think you've got a great attitude, and so you're not looking back at this and saying you're looking at all the ways in which you were advantaged growing up. But I think it's fair to say you've had some tough times as well.
Of course, like it's part of being human. Like everyone goes through tough times. I'm just grateful that my tough times, like, okay, so I was like, what? I was 15 and I had all these like things about me that I was so insecure about. I was really trying to find myself, still. But my parents weren't really supportive, but ironically, they were supportive financially. So like I had a beautiful desk and a keyboard and an iMac and this software that they paid for, even though it was cracked, but they paid for it, and it was, they spoiled me that sense. Like I had all these instruments. I had like a little music room for myself. So I don't like to say
they
that my
enabled
parents,
it. Yeah, they helped you.
Yeah, they still enabled it, right? Like,
yeah.
But that emotional thing crushed me. Like as far as being supportive, like mentally, like I would come home, my dad would be like negatively forcing me to study for this test. And it's like, come on, man, I've been in school like 8 hours today. I'm trying to make some music now. And that energy that he gave me, like, you need to study, you need to study. One day I was having a conversation with like a classmate. I wouldn't even say he was like my friend. I was like, man, all this time that we could be spending studying, imagine where we would be if we could have that studying mentality towards something that we love to do. So I would come home from school and work on stressed after school because I have anxiety that I've been away from my desk, from my music desk all day. Come home, eat food, get on the computer, and start studying musically. Studying production, studying like how to play an instrument, whatever. So that studying mentality that I was enforced by my dad, I gotta give it to him. Like if it wasn't for him really pushing me to do something that I don't want to do and making me like toughen up and be like, you have to do this, I wouldn't really have that mentality towards music. Like I have to learn. And
what do you like now? Are you quite focused? Do your days, do you practice a lot? Or
yes, I don't practice a lot. I've been creating a lot lately. I gotta practice. I was actually having this conversation with my manager the other day. It was like, I gotta practice. I gotta get a teacher. I need to keep going. Like, I need to do better on tar and sitar. I know I can do better. I know I can do better on machine. Yeah, like it's kind of like that's my mentality. Like you gotta do this.
And you go to university in Florida, and then now you've ended up in LA. I'm assuming you're in LA because it's the best place to be career wise.
Correct. I mean, just everyone's out here,
right?
And I used to hate LA actually at first. I didn't like LA, but I grew to love it. I love LA. I think I just went through the phase of just like realizing there's a lot of bullshit out here. And then once I grew out of that phase and I like accepted it, I started like meeting a lot of people who just are genuine. And, it's like a city's like the best when you got the best friends there, and I think because in high school, I was so isolated, like I never went to parties and stuff. I was just always by myself, like doing music, and kind of felt like an outcast. Like I really am grateful for the friends I have out here, because we just have a lot of fun and we're all just great musicians, and it's just fun. It's just good energy that I never had in my town, to be surrounded by this many producers and musicians that think like me, make jokes like me, and just have the same energy. I like that a lot.
Danny, when we've spoken before, you've told me your hero is Elon Musk.
He's not my hero.
Okay, what is he?
Lately,
he's a guy you admire, really right? He's a guy you admire?
Just lately I've been admiring him.
All right,
because he's like,
interesting guy to pick. Okay.
So
he's a billionaire.
Right.
So is that what you want to be?
A billionaire?
Yeah.
Yes. I want to be just Cyrus the Great powerful. I just want to be extremely powerful and make a huge impact in the world with my power, and not do anything that, never use it for bad. Just
right. You want to have a positive impact.
My ambitions are very like mythological.
but you want to be wealthy and powerful.
Yeah. But it's like,
and when you say,
so does everyone else, I feel like.
Well, no, actually, some people don't necessarily want to, focus their sights on being a billionaire. I guess there are some who do, but when you say you want to use that for good, it's like for the force of good, what does that mean to you? What is having a positive impact on the world? What impact do you want to have?
I don't know what it is. So like, that is something that I've been thinking of, as far as like my 10-year goal, because 10 years ago, what I was thinking of is what I'm doing today musically. So like it's just the same attitude. Like I'm confident enough that I'll reach that goal.
Did you have a 10-year goal when you were 14?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like
now,
I had like.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's. I mean, not a lot of 14-year-olds have a 10-year goal. So you've achieved. So how often do you re-up the goal? Do you have a new 10-year goal?
Not often. I can't waste my time too much on it, but every once in a while, I think, okay, look at what I've accomplished. Like, now what? I just need that constant stimulation of excelling. I can't imagine myself being 50 years old and just like being retired. Like, I'm going to just keep excelling.
Right.
So it's bound to happen that I hit like high millions.
What's amazing about this is, don't always judge a book by its cover, because I mean, to look at you look like a cool guy who's having fun playing his instruments, albeit extremely talented, making these videos, and now finding extremely impressive success in terms of numbers and audience and all that. But we find out that this stuff just doesn't happen. I mean, you had a 10-year plan when you were 14. Hard, I love it.
Thank you.
It's fascinating.
It's hard because to be a musician in 2020, it takes a lot of multitasking and seeing if you got the balls to be able to handle everything and stay consistent at it. The biggest flaw I feel like a musician makes is like they stick to something, and I've definitely done this, but they stick to something and then a week goes by and they don't keep at it. Right now, my 6-month goal is to be able to master the skill of releasing a live video on my YouTube channel every Monday, doing like a live Twitch stream that's completely freestyle, mind you, using a looper, a bunch of just like preloaded sounds, but just completely live. My tar and sitar keyboard once a week, and then release a song every 10 days or every 2 weeks on a Friday. And I feel like, and then TikTok every day, and then Instagram every 3 days.
And how do you, I mean, I guess there's a million ways you could do it, but how do you monetize that? What's the way that, we're on the plan to be the billionaire? I'm just curious what, because you don't really, I mean, you don't so much make albums, right? You put songs, you put tracks out there.
Right.
I guess you do big gigs.
Persian trap music is not going to make me a billionaire. I guarantee that. And I'm not ready to stop doing Persian trap music full time until probably I'm like 40. So like realistically, like.
But being an online sensation.
I shouldn't have said I want to. It's my 10-year goal. Honestly,
I won't hold you to it. When we do the interview 10 years from now, it's like, buddy, listen, you've only made it halfway to Elon Musk. I'm a little disappointed in you. No, I think...
You see, like, I just changed my mind now. I do that shit all the time. So I changed my mind for a long time about, like, how I want to do things. Like, okay, do Instagram videos full time. And I do all these Instagram videos. And then I'm like, oh, I forgot to make music. So then I'm like doing Spotify, just posting stuff on Spotify full time. And then like everyone's forgetting about me on Instagram. And like I'm finally like starting to get a hang of like trying to handle all of them at once. And it takes a lot of responsibility. You need a good team. You know, you gotta wake up early, plan your day, do the calendars, all that kind of stuff.
No, listen, I'll answer the question for you. You have a huge devoted following already. Who are going to follow you through what you do creatively. That's gold. That's your gold. There's no record company or advertising firm or major, institution that can manufacture that. They can dress up a band and put them out there and advertise the hell out of it. No one can build what you've built organically, and you can leverage that however you want. That audience of people all over the world, as we've talked about in this interview, who like what you're doing.
Yeah.
So are we still okay with the 10-year plan, or are you still having? Because I think you can make the billion. You can get there.
I mean, let's say 100 million. Just off Persian trap music.
Okay. 100 million by when?
2000. What date? What was it? 2020.
It's 2030.
100 million.
Okay.
Hands down.
All right.
Hands down. 100 million.
Hands down. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. All right.
Look, I'm gonna make, if I keep my shit together, if I'm excelling at the rate that I am right now, I think realistically, I can chart 10 million. Within the next 2 years, by the end of like the next 2 years. And if I stay smart with it and confident, because confidence is key, I think I can totally hit 100 million in 10 years.
I think at least 1 million of that can be your best-selling book about confidence. That will do really. That will do, no. It'll do really well for you. How to Achieve Confidence by Danny Asadi. But listen, here's the thing. We can joke around about this, but you are extremely talented, and you're doing, and you've created something that's different, and it's connecting. I've said that from the beginning of the interview. No matter what happens from here on in, it's only up for you. I'm sure of that. You just, but being smart. But being smart is a big part of it. Listen, let me tell you something quick that I've learned from years of doing interviews with musicians and being a musician and being a producer and a manager and all that. The myth, the rock and roll myth, if there was a time, I don't know, in the 70s or something, when people could just be doing drugs and not sleeping and leading extremely unhealthy lifestyles and also becoming huge success stories, that doesn't exist anymore unless you're
right.
That may be the case in some crazy exception, but anyone I've interviewed who are at the top level, the best bands, the most successful, I should say, bands in the world or artists in the world are all extremely focused, are all ambitious, all usually wake up super early in the morning, keep themselves very healthy. This and I'll always remember this being on this tour. It was a 3-band tour. It was a really well-known band, a big American band. We were in the middle, and there was another band, and the band was the opening band was they were getting drunk every night on the tour bus and just having the greatest time and whatever. And I remember one of the guys from the famous band saying, these guys, this got to be their first tour. And we were like, yeah, they're not going to last. They think that this is what it's about. And it was true. Like, they didn't make it even to the end of the tour. Because it's hard work and you've got to stay focused, and
it's
to really,
work,
yeah. So that's part of the, all of what you've talked about in terms of your ambition and your practice and all of that, that is undermines those myths of just being the price. And this is especially, as true in sort of hip hop culture, and the notion that you're just partying every night and bottle service and whatever, and you can't do that and be a big success. I mean, you can if that's part of the image for a little while, but even then you self-destruct.
Hit him.
You want me to tell you like what really got me confident though?
Yeah.
Because there was a transition from being like super insecure and trying to find my passion to being super confident.
Yeah.
So like my work ethic was becoming like increasingly better throughout the age of 16. I started making a few friends, and they were starting to show their friends what I'm doing, and like their friends were all like, everyone was getting like really hyped, and everyone's telling me like, dude, you're talented. And I'm like, I'm thinking in my head like, I didn't ever want to say it, but I'm like, I better fucking be. I've been in this basement, this cold ass basement every night. And I was just, because during that time I was starting to get better at machine. I was starting to get better at tar, sitar, and better at production. It was all at the same time, like hand in hand. So my confidence was starting to get better. I was still really overweight, so I decided to do like this, like it was called Insanity. It was like a workout program, and I got really into like, I don't know, somewhat, I mean, mildly into like fitness and health and like, you know, being just totally just like jacked and having like alpha body. So like I would do like, I always had that ambition too, and I was just like working out, and I lost like 30 pounds over summer of like junior year. And then senior year I came back, I was like skinny, I plucked my eyebrows, you know, I learned how to do my hair, you know, like dressing what I like to dress. I felt better, and I felt confident enough to be friends with these like cheerleader girls, like in the beginning of high school, and I thought I was like the kid, you know. And then like I told myself like, dude, what if at the end of the year I put together a show?
1 year goal. Yeah.
1 year. It was legit.
Right.
Whatever. 1 school year goal.
Uh-huh.
I put together a show, and the entire high school comes. If that happens, like I'm gonna really establish myself as an artist, and it's gonna be a great start to Asadi. Because I was ready to, you know, release music. Okay. I was ready to start putting music out and starting a SoundCloud and whatever. And internet fame wasn't really like a thing yet, like making videos and putting it out and stuff.
Very, very new. Yeah.
It seemed more important to me to take shows seriously, put together shows myself. So I purposely, like at lunch, would stay close to all these cheerleader girls. So at the end of the year, when I threw together the Asadi show, and I tell them, they're going to be so pumped, and they're going to tell all their friends. And because the cheerleaders went, I knew the football players would go. Because the football players would go, I knew the lacrosse players would go, because the lacrosse players were friends with football players. And so I knew the whole high school would come, right? I also put the event together myself at a venue. It was called The Basement in Columbus, Ohio. And I purposely like invited not only bands and artists, like kids that like kind of did music, but like kind of like popular and stuff in my school. Not only I did that on purpose, like to have them in the show, like to perform, like to open for me. I had a few other kids from other high schools come, and I said, you know, this might help get other high schools to come too. And all my good friends, especially my friend Shams, I got to shout her out. She ended up selling like 85 tickets to my show from her high school, because she's been like nonstop talking about me and showing my music to all her friends and shit, like in her high school. All the cheerleader girls, the idea worked. So all of them came, all of their friends came. So I like at the end of class, I had to like pull out like stacks of money from like all these tickets that I was selling. So I myself sold like not 85, but I sold like 50, 60. And quickly all the other bands started selling tickets, and they were all like selling like 60, 70, 40, 50. Next thing you know, like it added up, and it was a sold out show in the basement. Two like kids, juniors and seniors from two high schools came. It was a wild night. And from then on, I was like, I'm the boss. I was like, I run this city. I was like 18 years old. I'm like so freaking cocky. Like some girl like threw a bra on stage and it was so cringy. But like back then I thought it was so badass, and I like took a photo of that bra, and you can like if you scroll down like to the bottom of my Instagram, you'll still see it. Like the ticket to my show and the bra. And I called the show on purpose PTM Fest, standing for Persian trap music. Okay. So like when you hear my songs, like you hear the word PTM here and there. And like that's what got people from like that's what started like people started talking about me. And I remember like I would go to like I would go to like a skate park or something, like just go skateboarding there with some friends or whatever. And there'd be like people in the skate park like, are you Danny Asadi? Like I'm like some sort of like celebrity. I'm like, yeah. I was so happy, man. And that's what really started for me. I was like, I am not giving up on this shit. All this hard work, all this like quote unquote first world problem suffering finally paid off, and I'm gonna stick to it, man. So
good for you.
That's my story.
Good for you. First of all,
and then we threw a second one because everyone wanted a second one, and then 700 people came.
The same year, or this was
that same summer? Okay. Yeah, 785 people came to a bigger venue.
First of all, I want to negotiate the screenplay rights to that. The story of the kid who plucks his eyebrows, manipulates the cheerleaders into bringing people to his show. I mean, there's and successfully makes it. But
it's like a Disney Channel movie.
Right. But second of all, I mean, this is when you hit the 10-year. Well, by 2030, the 100 million, you've got to do a special charity show back at the basement. That's part of the story, right? The story is you go back to the place.
Dude, you're right.
So you got to go back there, and by that time you're like Kanye. You're like a household name. But you know, he's coming back to play at the basement where it all started. You know, you have to do that.
Totally. Yeah. You're right.
So let me just ask you, you mentioned a little earlier talking about how one of the reasons people in Iran know that you're Iranian is because of some of the artists you've worked with. You mentioned Irfan. There's that song, Marjangeh, which I'm a huge fan of, that you did with Irfan and Hamed Nikpeh. So tell me how something like that comes together.
Irfan, when I first met him, I had such a different impression of him because normally rappers are like kind of hard to talk to. Yeah. And he was so professional. Like he was such a zen, like professional guy. I really liked his energy.
Yeah.
So like he was acting like the way he talks is like he's like a honarman, like a proper musician, like very professional.
Which he is.
I go to Hamid's house.
He is. He's a monster. He's a great writer, great musician. Yeah.
Yeah. And I went to Hamid's house, and as soon as I opened the door to his house, he goes, "Danny Asadi, handsome boy, come on in." He's like smoking hookah and stuff. So badass. He's got like a Harley outside. He's just this rock star, man. Yeah, and I was like, whoa, you know, I really like his stuff. So that was really funny. And then I showed him this idea. So basically there's this movie called Shir Sang. It's like a Bakhtiyari movie. And this guy recorded this song for that movie, and that's Marjangeh. So I showed him. I was so in love with that song.
Yeah.
So I showed that to him. I said, "Look, these Bakhtiaris have this beautiful melody, and this sample is just awesome. And maybe you could sing it instead." And Hamid was like, "Bet!" Like he just wanted to do it. So he got on the mic, we recorded that, and I went home and I just started really just working on it. And then Then I created Irfan's verse. I showed it to Irfan. We went to the studio. I told him how to sing it. So I was like, Irfan, do this, like da 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 da.
Right.
Da, 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 da. I was like, fill that in with lyrics. He was like, hell yeah. So he filled in with lyrics. Fire. And then I said, how about this part? We'll like, you know, we'll sing the same thing, but it's like a crowd, and we'll make it harder, and then you can rap again. So it's just kind of like,
you know, I'm a big fan of this song, and I had no idea that you put it all together. It's it's great. What about the dogs? Whose dogs are those?
I found that online. I just put it in there.
Oh, yeah. You ruined it. I had this impression of these dogs somewhere in the room.
No. I just thought it would be cool to put a bark in it for some reason.
Danny, it's been such a pleasure. It is. Thanks, I should say, Danny Asadi, Boy Wonder. That's what I should say. It's been a joy, and thank you for sharing some of these stories. Thank you for your time, and I can't wait to see what happens next with you, man. But I'm so excited about the music you make.
Thanks, man. I love what you're doing, by the way, with Roqe, and I'm very grateful to be speaking with you. I look forward to what the future holds for you as well.
Thank you, brother. We'll talk again soon. Be safe, and we'll be peddling your music out there.
All right, man. I'll catch you later.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.
Musician, performer, Persian trap music pioneer Danny Asadi. We'll put a link to his platforms in the descriptor of whatever platform you are listening to us on right now. Danny Asadi joined us from LA today. This is Full Time for Roqe. Thanks to the amazing team working on this show. Thanks to those of you out there who are spreading the word about this program. Let's go out on a new track from Asadi and Sublab, just dropped last week. I'm Jian. See you Thursday with another new episode. Mizun Bashin.